Well, hello again. Here's my third new video. Again, it's just going to be a little bit of a talky thing, just to address some long-range, frequently asked questions. So I'm going to do these as they build up, intermittently, maybe once a month or whatever. However, I try and answer as many questions as I can directly to you in my comment sections if you ask, but there's there are a few that permeate and keep going and keep being asked, and quite frankly I get a little bit sick of answering the same question over and over again. So here's the definitive answers for, I'd say, 4 or 5 things. So I would say one of the most frequently asked questions is, other than, are you bald now? Because you always seem to have a hat on. So obviously you can see that I'm not bald. I just like wearing a hat because it's generally a little chilly in here and my head gets cold because I have shorter hair. So that's not a real FAQ. So the first one is, where do you get the Drumless Tracks? Okay, so I never use Drumless Tracks. I use the album recording of the song that I'm playing. And what I do is I turned the music to a volume which in the recorded levels it's loud enough so that you can hear, but it's not overbearing, so it's not burying my drums. And what I do is I try and play as accurately as possible the music that I'm playing, so that every single note that I play, if it's correct, will be way louder than the drummer on the song from the studio recording. So I play it as accurately as I can, and if I do that correctly, it looks like, it sounds like there's no drumming on the track, when in fact it's just because my drumming is louder than the drummer who was on the track. But I could point to you several instances, because I'm not 100% perfect, just like they aren't 100% perfect, but they also have the advantage of doing 500 takes and clipping things together and all that thing, those sort of things. Whereas I do almost everything in one take, and I'd say, okay, that's good enough. I'm not going to get any better than 99.8% accurate. And I could pull my hair out and try for that 300th take and say, oh, finally got it. And I remember that splash cymbal. Whatever. So you and I could pick out probably at least once or twice in each video. There are some that, quite frankly, do not have any glaring mistakes. And you'd be hard pressed unless you also knew the song as well as I did to be able to pick them out. So, as I said, while I probably make 3 or 4 mistakes in each song, in a 5-6 minute song, not all of them are of the same consequence. So the most glaring mistakes would be if I missed the backbeat on a snare, or I missed a cymbal crash that was by itself at the end of a roll or in the middle of a roll, or something like that. That's really glaringly obvious, and I always get stick for that. And I admit, yeah, I know, I missed the cymbal. And you can hear Sib Hashian or Neil Peart or Denny Carmazzi or whoever drummer I'm trying to emulate. Yeah, you can hear them in the background. I don't make any bones about it. I'm not trying to say, that's me, because it is me in terms of what you're hearing when I play it. But, every so often I miss something, and what you hear is a dimmed down version of the studio drummer playing that song piece. So that's what I use for my beds for what I'm playing over. And usually it works out. I was really amazed actually when I first started doing videos about how well it did sound, how well I could do kind of exactly what they were doing. So that's the first question. I don't have any drumless tracks. I don't have any kind of inside info about that or some source that gives me rush tracks from masters or anything like that. So the second one is, how do I record in terms of technically how do I record? So what I do is I mic every drum, and I have a cymbal, hi-hat, a ride cymbal, and I have two overheads. And then I have one mic on each drum, and one on the snare, and one on the bass drum. So I put that all through a mixer with the studio track, and then I put all that from the mixer outs into a wave recorder. So it makes a wave file of exactly what I'm playing in real time, simultaneously with the bed track. And at the same time, I'm recording on this camera what I'm playing so that I can sync up, and then I take the volume off the camera track, and I insert the volume from the wave track onto the camera track, the video track. And then I sync them up, and that seems to work well. The only problem is in the early days of the compression of YouTube, if you did about more than about five and a half to 6 minutes, what happened was the sound would drift. So the first 5 minutes would look like it was totally in sync, but the compression for the audio and the video, I think they had different algorithms or something, and so the sound gradually slips so that at the end of the video it looks like I'm out of time. But if you close your eyes, it still sounds perfect. So I can't do anything about that. That's a YouTube quirk. I think it's a lot better now, but at the same time, I'm probably not going to be playing a whole lot of full songs. I will be playing more pieces of songs and doing a lot more editing so that I'll be able to talk and then show and demonstrate certain things, different times, slower, build them up, show you how I learned it, things like that. Very in-depth instructional videos, not just, hey, here's the 5-minute song and you do the heavy lifting. So that's how I record. I'm going to do it slightly different now because I bought a new digital piece of equipment where I can put my mixer into 4 different channels and put that into my computer, and then I'll be able to actually mix the 2 trebles, the bass, and the snare. And I think it'll be a much more dynamic mix than I had before. I've screwed around with that a little bit, but I still have to perfect that. So I think the first item of business is getting the mics all drummed up and mixed. Mic'd up and mixed. And then after that, it's just a question of, instead of having 2 outputs, having 4 outputs, and pushing 2 little buttons on the mixer, and then just using my laptop instead of a wave recorder to record the actual songs. So that's just technical stuff that I know what I'm doing, but I don't really want to spend 10 minutes explaining it all, or maybe 20. So the third thing is, what type of equipment do you have? Okay, so from left to right, so from very high to all low, I've actually got 4 new toys, which are called rocket toms. They're made by Pearl. They're made out of aluminum, and they're basically the same design as octobons, except they're made out of aluminum. And so there's, I think it's 12, 18, 24, and 30, the lengths, but they're all 6 inches in diameter. So I have those 4 here, kind of like Todd Zuckerman, I think, you're probably familiar with him. The stick strummer, he has 4 octobans on the left-hand side just before his hi-hat. So I had them in the same arrangement as that, but a little higher. And then I have a 10-inch firecracker snare by Pearl right here. And then I have my 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16 toms, all Pearl reference. I got a 22-inch Pearl reference kick drum and a 14 by 6.5 Pearl reference 1-inch thick 22 ply amazing maple drum, snare drum. That's just so sweet. So that's my drums. My cymbals, currently I have an 18-inch Wuhan China right here, nothing to do with the virus. Then I have a 22, 16, 16, 10-inch splash, 8-inch splash, 18, and then I have the Diamondback, the big flange, 20-inch, maybe it's 19-inch China, and then the 20-inch small flange, kind of a Pang China, all Sabian Paragon. And I have 13, 14 hi-hats and a 22-inch ride. So I think that's all the cymbals I have. And I have a bunch of other snare drums, but I don't usually use them. But I might be doing some other stuff on my left. Might add another snare drum, floor tom. I have an Octopad, the new version of an Octopad by Roland. I have a foot trigger here, and I have 3 triggers, just like in my old videos. They're gonna probably all go in about the same place. So that's a third question. What's my equipment? I know I went pretty fast on that, but if you listen to it a few times and look at a picture of my kit, like an old video or something, maybe you can figure it out pretty easily. Because it really hasn't changed except for the 4 rocket toms. Other than that, my set is pretty much the same as it used to be. So fourth would be, how do I get better? Or how do I, do that? Or how do I do that one song? Or, well, there's only one reason, or the one way to do that, and that is practice. Plain and simple. And there are better ways to practice than worse ways, and there are more efficient ways to practice than spinning your wheels. And I think I did a lot of really innovative things when I was coming up, because I didn't start till I was 21, so I had to kind of catch up to all those 13-year-olds that started, who were also still my age at 21. So they had 8 years of drumming, and it's way easier to learn stuff when you're a kid also. But you're much more wily as an adult. So I had some inroads to being crafty as far as practice went. But basically my approach is very simple. Figure out what is hard, what I'm going to need to learn. Take it out of the song, rip it apart, write it out if necessary, slow it down, practice it slowly, gradually speed it up, and then get it up to the right speed and technique, all good, perfect, and then put it back into the song, and you won't have a problem then. Because the rest of the song you can already execute, just the rhythms and the melody, the general beat. And then if you have any difficult fills, if you take it out, break it down, do it, put it back in, you'll be good. So in addition to that, the things that I did to help myself practice is I did a lot of audio taping, just a tape recorder back in the olden days. Videotaping, I had a big huge mirror, one here and one there on either side of my drums, and I had them slightly angled up so I didn't get that barbershop endless mirror effect. If I looked into one, see myself over there, or no, smaller and smaller mirrors. But it was at an angle so I could see what I was doing with my hands. Another thing I did was I taped a hockey stick from one cymbal holder to another so that I couldn't possibly lift my drumstick any higher than about 8 inches off. So that gave me the control because it was so annoying, and it screwed up my whatever sticking I was practicing. And then eventually I just stopped hitting the hockey stick. And then I took the hockey stick out, and then I'd look in the mirror and I'd play the same rudiment or whatever, and you could see the perfect arcs of the sticks, and they'd be in the exact same, like they would be moving out the exact same arc. This is very evident in a video I did called how to play a double stroke roll, because I did it from the side and from the front, and when I do it from the side, you can totally tell that my sticks are doing exactly the same thing, and that's just from looking in the mirror and videotaping what I'm doing wrong. Because just like anything, if you videotape yourself giving speeches, you'll be like, oh, okay, I gotta stop doing that. It's really informative. And the same thing goes for pretty much any skill that you're trying to develop. If you videotape yourself often and critically and watch it objectively, don't worry that you look idiotic or it's funny or whatever. It's very informative, and it makes you better at doing what you're going to try and do. So the fifth one is, I don't really believe in talent in terms of God-given talent or natural talent or whatever. I mean, to a point. For instance, if you want to sing, if you are completely tone deaf, I think you're out of luck. You're never going to be able to sing. If you can't play, like if you can't clap along with just a straight 4-beat on a pop song, you might have a problem playing the drums. But that is like a total void of any ability, let alone talent. And you can nurture a decent ability into what looks like a huge amount of talent just from straight hard work. And it's just hard work, really. I mean, I used to play 8 hours a day. And I'm not kidding about that. I would literally play 8 hours a day. I'd probably drink, 4 or 5 liters of water, sweat profusely, and by the end of those 8 hours, I was just wearing shorts. Literally nothing else. No socks, nothing. No shoes. And I have the rusty bass pedals to prove it. That's why I stopped playing bare feet, because I just sweat so much. I used to when I had bad technique and I was young and full of piss and vinegar and played everything way too hard and had no dynamic technique and just pounded the crap out of the drums from sheer youthful exuberance. And now I can play for 4 hours and not sweat with good technique. I hardly even move my body. I'm centered. It's meditative. I learned breathing techniques. So just by virtue of doing, repetitive, but make it fun, make it interesting so that you don't get bored. Because anyone who's really going to pursue a habit or a hobby is probably going to get bored if it's not constantly rewarding. So make it rewarding, difficult, not too difficult, not dissuasive, not, oh, I just want to burn my drums. Make it, oh, I really want to learn that. I really want to work on this today. I can't wait to get down to my drums after school. I can't wait to get to the drums after work. I can't wait to finish my supper so I can go play. make it so it's like that for you. Because if you have the drive and put in the work, you will get better. I've seen it happen to other people, and I know it happened to me. I know where I came from. I know when I went from whatever I was the first day to what I am today. And even in the last 12 years, I think I haven't made a video for about 8 years. And I know in those 8 years I've improved. And even though maybe, unless you're a really advanced drummer, you probably wouldn't recognize what's different, but it is different. I recognize it. The people I play with regularly recognize it. And I still have a long ways to go. It's never over. So, those are my facts, number one. And if you have any questions, just keep writing them in the comments, or you can email me at PASTONE, that's PASTONE at gmail.com, and just put in the topic, just put something, so that I know it's about YouTube or Polywana, or some reference, a fact, a question about your YouTube video or something like that. So I could just easily separate it out because I get hundreds of emails and I'd like to catch it. So I'll do another one when I get 4 or 5 more questions, and hopefully we'll have a lot of back and forth, and I'm going to have a good time. I hope you guys do too. So I'll talk to you again, and happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. Bye.